I'm Antony of RevolutionaryJam. It's January of 2008. Today, taking on from my last video on economic growth, I want to talk about consumerism and distribution of wealth. The Earth took 4,600 million years to evolve. The industrial system has been with us less than 200, and most of the serious damage we've done to the planet has been within the last 50 years. This damage is being caused not by the progress of civilization, but rather because the societies that we live in haven't been created to cater to people's needs. They've been created to cater to demand, that is, the demand of those who can afford to pay for it. In other words, the most needy people in the world will never be able to get what they require, even though it can be provided for them, because they're incapable of creating the demand for it. How does our society try to deal with the problem of have-nots? Well, the theory is the more things you make and sell, the more people will be employed and the better off everyone will be. It doesn't really matter whether the things you make are useful or not, or indeed whether they were created labour intensively, as long as you can convince people to buy them. The faster we take resources from the earth and turn them into things, most of which aren't needed, the greater the so-called economic boom. Our only role in this society is to produce things that other people can consume, so that we can consume things that other people produce. The idea is that if the economy grows, a select few will get very, very rich, and they will spend that money, and it will trickle down to poor people in countries. The trickle-down system. But that's not quite how it works in real life. The richest members of society don't need to spend more money to sustain their lifestyles. They already have everything they need. So typically when they earn more, they invest it either in property that they get rent from, or shares which they get dividends from. In other words, they use the money to make more money, which of course is very easy to do if you have some, but very difficult to do if you don't. On the other hand, any increase in the wealth of the poorest members of society tends to go straight back into the local economy, thereby benefiting the majority. That's why it's so important that everyone has a living wage, or at least one of the reasons why. Not that the minimum wage here in the UK is adequate at £5.52 an hour for 21s and overs, but the minimum wage in America, taking into account inflation, had been at its lowest since 1955, staying at $5.15 for 10 years, until it was recently raised to a paltry $5.85. Now, critics forecast dire consequences with every minimum wage rise, as they did with the abolition of slavery, but after the last hikes in 96 and 97, America experienced dramatically stronger job growth, lower inflation and lower poverty rates. If employers can't stay in business while keeping their employees out of poverty, there's something seriously wrong with their business models, and when they do, they take the burden off the government to provide transfer payments, which could lead to lower taxation. Good news for everybody. Wouldn't it be better if our aim was to meet everyone's needs first? A study conducted in the late 80s showed that if cars were made as durable as possible, 50% of jobs would be lost in manufacturing, which are generally alienating and impersonal, but 50% more jobs would be gained overall because of the new employment created in the repair and reconditioning industries, which are often engaging and skilled. That might not benefit certain business interests, but it would certainly benefit society as a whole, and that's just one of the ways we could distribute wealth in ways that were beneficial to everybody, instead of pseudo-efficiencies such as mechanisation and outsourcing, which ultimately result in job losses, damage to the environment and exploitation abroad. I'm Antony of RevolutionaryJam. Thanks very much for listening.